Good morning, everybody. Hope all of you are doing as well and as well as can be. My prayers are for all of you. Thought this morning I'd talk just briefly about the unlocking the potential of where there are aspects of an illness that can be positive. This is a really seems like a crazy statement, and frankly, I did not believe there was a shred of positive aspects of my illness for a very long time. It wasn't until very recently that I started to learn and become aware through prayer and through just some observations of other people that many of the qualities I have as a human being and my strengths as a human being are a byproduct of all my mood disorders. And I think that, so for example, call me a technologist. I'm an entrepreneur. I've always liked technology. I was an artist. I was creative. I was a history person. I loved solving problems. I was very active in a variety of things. I like sports. So I always sort of felt like I was a misfit because I had so many interests in so many things, and I didn't really fit in a box. My personality profile test never really made a lot of sense. From a working perspective, being an entrepreneur ended up being probably the best role for me because I was able to use a variety of skills. Now, my illness has been a huge, issue in my job, and frankly, I had to be my own boss because of how much my illness was. I'd have bad days, and it's hard to have bad days when you have a regular job, and I'm sure a lot of you have this, and it's very tough. If an employer doesn't understand or doesn't know what's going on, and you have a day where your depression is really low, or you're having extremely high anxiety, or some sort of post-traumatic stress scenario where you're just non-functional, people don't have a lot of compassion or sympathy, and we all know that. So to me, it's the question of, so what positive can come out of all this negative stuff that we deal with? So for me, and this is something that's well documented, is a lot of the brightest minds in history had a mood disorder. And that sounds shocking, but it's true. And if you look throughout these figures in history, they changed the world, and their afflictions is what separated them from other people. And that's what's cool. We're different. And I think a lot of us are ashamed of being different, and I would challenge us all to celebrate the differences that we have in our lives and how we are completely different. God made us different, and that's why I've said God is intentional in what he does. He's not making mistakes. I know some of you think I'm crazy in saying that, and I completely respect any rebuttal, but I can tell you honestly from my experience, in which I was completely convinced that my illness and my mood disorder diagnosis, however you pronounce that. See, I suck at grammar. There you go. There's a good example of where I'm just completely deficient. And that's okay. So I probably misspeak things a lot in these things. But I think that, for me, I'm bipolar 2. I'll talk a lot about this later, but it's been pretty much almost without question that Robin Williams was bipolar. And I want to talk about that one later in a session, but that's one example. I believe that it's been thought and known that Beethoven was bipolar. Abraham Lincoln had depression. There's a bunch, and I'll post a list on my blog on Facebook for those to check out. It's amazing. So for me, my creative if I can use my bipolar in the proper way, it makes my mind expand into how I solve problems. I see things so differently, And I'm able to be creative and figure things out in ways that most people can't. And again, I have to use it in a right way. It has to be channeled in the right direction. And this takes practice and it takes discipline. But I know now that my intelligence on the positive side is fueled by my illness. I know it. I know it now to the core of my existence. And I'm proud of that, because the fact that I'm different and I think differently is a good thing. And we need to celebrate that about it ourselves. My depression, in the right dose, makes me compassionate. You know, like I said, Winston Churchill, who was the famous Prime Minister of Great Britain during World War II, was said and well documented that he had enormous afflictions with depression, and these afflictions helped him temper his decision making, so he was not brash, but ultimately calculated and careful, and even compassionate in some ways, so that he made the right decisions regarding a time that was insanely difficult and high pressure. Abraham Lincoln, the same thing. So to me, you can use depression if the right way, where you can care for people. And that's honestly, guys, I'm using my depression right now to care for you, because I empathize and I want to help. And the emotional sadness that can come if I keep it, you know, through prayer and through medication from slipping, is a very, very good thing. And it's a big heart, and it's something that to be celebrated. My anxiety can cripple me to the point where I'm non-functional. I can't work. I can't get things done. I cycle. I'm stuck. I grind. I can't get through things. Things that are simple things become really difficult. But what it does do is it makes me process things very fast. So if I use that sensitivity, I can process things extremely fast, faster than most people can. And I didn't realize it, because everybody would kind of complain like, "Jay, you're going too fast. I can't follow you. I can't follow you. You're going so fast. You're going so fast." That was that anxious energy channeled into the bipolar side of me, where I would solve problems. And then ultimately the emotional intelligence that I have is fueled by my depression. And my OCD fuels my detail and my perfectionism of doing things high quality. All of these things in extremes are not good. But if you can pick off the parts of it that are not on the extreme end of the spectrum, it's very positive. It's very good. So there's an example of how I'm using my depression, my bipolar, and my anxiety, and then I would say my ADHD, same thing, where I'm rapid fire. So it's kind of fueled into some of that, where if I can not get too unfocused, I'm able to rapidly figure things out and rapidly go through stuff. So I've got an ability to be a machine and an amazing person in terms of how I operate. But I need God's help, and I need truth, and I need medication, and I need support, and just practice, because it's easy to slip. So all of you, please, don't forget the wonderful way that God has created you. And despite what you may perceive or what you see and all of the horrific things that you may have experienced in your life, I promise you that there is something good in that. And I challenge you to find that. Pray for it. It's there. You just have to look at ways to use this negative as a positive. And you do those things, you change the world, you change things around you. and you're able to do things that other people can't. And that's really cool. God bless you always. More to come later. Take care.